Welcome to episode 2 of Talking Shit About with me, Elizabeth Wipperman, your beloved host. This month we'll be talking about Quentin Tarantino, but before that, don't forget to like and subscribe, and if you're so inclined, you can follow the link at the bottom of the page to fill out the Google form if you would like to be a guest on the podcast. Let's talk some shit. I am here today with my friend, filmmaker, squire, decorator of the dead, Yui K. Hi, Yui.
Hello. Hello.
We are here to talk about Quentin Tarantino, the director.
Yes.
Did I say you're a film director?
Um, I
Filmmaker?
I have made some like minor things in the past. I'm mostly
Oh.
aspiring filmmaker. I did go to college for film studies for 5 years, but had to drop out for health reasons. So, I mean, I've had some experience in debating on whether like Quentin Torrentino is actually like good or not. So
Mhm.
like yeah, I've had some practice and I've gotten really good at it, even though I haven't been in school since 2013.
So, what got you into going to film? Like, what was your idea going into that?
Well, for me, like what kind of inspired me to like want to make movies in the first place was actually the Lord of the Rings films. Like, because I saw those like as they were coming out when I was like, 10 or whatever, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is what I want to do.
Mhm.
And ever since then, it's just been like trying to like gather the skills and like ideas to one day do that. And yeah, it turns out it's very hard when you're an independent person who's poor to like try and break into this really structured and very money driven field. Who knew?
Yeah, right? The arts. Why? Um, when do you think you saw your first Tarantino movie, and do you remember which one it was?
uh, I know I was at least 18 or older because I don't think I saw my first Toronto film until maybe 2009 or so. And I want to say it was either Reservoir Dogs or Pulp Fiction. So like the ones that are always like held up as like, oh, this is the greatest movie he's ever made. And obviously he's worth like thinking that like his style and his directorial like influence is worth changing the entire landscape of cinema for because he's such a fucking genius.
Do you remember what your reaction was the first time you saw those? Like, were you a little underwhelmed?
Oh yeah, I was super underwhelmed. I remember just instantly being repulsed by something like
Mhm. Was it the
and
feet?
I mean that was definitely a big one. Uh but I don't know, there was just some indescribable quality that I couldn't quite put my finger on, and everyone at the time who I was watching it with was like, "Oh, you just don't get it," or like, "Oh, you're like, just shocked by like the like gritty gore or whatever." And it's like, "No, I watch horror movies. I'm not afraid of that. It's not that I don't get it. It's just there's something that disgusts me to the point of like I don't enjoy watching this." And so ever since then, and people have been like trying to convince me that like, "Oh yeah, it's totally worth like going back and rewatching them." And so I started learning about film to be able to describe why I don't like it.
So you mentioned the gore. I feel the same way. Like, I don't want to say it's sort of senseless violence, but at the same time, like that's one of the things I love in
Hmm.
my movies. What do you think it is about Tarantino's movies that are so different from something like, I don't know, Drive or Taxi Driver? I'm sure other movies that don't have the word drive in them.
Hmm.
But that kind of just, I don't know, something about the violence is different, or
Mhm.
maybe it's something cinematically. What do you think it
Um,
is?
Let me check my notes. I took extensive notes on this, by the way.
Nice.
Uh, the reason I feel like his specific style of directing and depicting violence is not for like any other reason than it's a plot device. Like,
Hmm.
he doesn't see any of the things that he really uses in his narrative world as like a narrative point. It's not something to like enrich the story. It's there to continue the story forward because without it, we're never going to get to the end, I guess. And so, I don't know, that just like violence because it's like, well, this is, how I've imagined this world. And so, therefore, everything has to be disgusting and like gross and everyone's amoral. At some point, that becomes so overindulgent that, like, even when you're suspending disbelief, like, it's gone too fucking far. When,
Yeah, like
like,
all of the characters use slurs in Pulp Fiction. It's just like, is every character in this movie racist? Like,
mhm,
I don't know. It's just I can understand, maybe the like racist grandpa, who's talking about love and then he drops the like slurs, sure, okay.
yeah,
But yeah, just everyone just like in the beginning scene of Pulp Fiction when the diner, they're just like
mhm.
dropping them like bombs and it's like what is the point of that in this context other than to just say slurs? I don't
Like,
know.
it feels like he only knows how to write characters as if he was that character. Like, that's the only way he can imagine these, like, things existing is like, oh, well, I have to imagine myself as this person. And if I was that person, I would say this. That's how
Yeah, and he
all of his writing feels like that.
and he always plays a shitty character when he plays as himself. Like he's always
And
racist. He's always using slurs and it's like, why can't you be like Stan Lee and just rip and
mhm.
do little one-liners and be
Yeah, or like
funny.
fun little like cameos instead of like a several minute long sequence that you get to justify yourself saying the N word for several minutes. Like, that's not shocking. It's not provocative. It's just being a shitty human being for art's sake. And no. Ugh.
Do you want to just kind of go over the films that we watched, or
Yeah.
is there like a specific way you want to go about it?
Um, I mean, yeah, let's get into ripping apart Pulp Fiction because
Yeah.
that one's always a fun one to start with. Just because everyone thinks it's like, oh, it's the greatest movie ever made, and like it's so cool because it like he completely changed how you can structure a story, even though like that was already a film convention before he started doing it. By the way, like it wasn't new, it wasn't like completely groundbreaking as everybody made it out to be. And I have after like rewatching it enough times, I feel like you could add and build way more subtextual, like, I don't know, depth to this movie if you actually viewed it in a much more chronological way. Like, not entirely. There are some sequences where, like, yeah, I get the whole, like, let's just completely chop up and melt time for, like, the effect. It'll be cool. That's great. That's fine. But there's no real rhyme or reason beyond like he can't write a linear story with smooth transitions.
Hmm. Yeah, it gets better throughout time. Like, so for listeners, we watched Inglorious Bastards, Django, and Pulp Fiction. I also watched Jackie Brown for the first time.
Oh,
Um, have you seen it?
I have not. I've done enough like reading and like looking into his career that I know about Jackie Brown, but oh man,
Okay,
I
I don't
should
know
watch.
about it, but I've seen it. So that'll be really interesting. But that, I guess, is his only book that's a adaptation from like a book directly,
Oh,
and
okay.
it shows. Like it is linear. The black characters, they say the N-word like
Mhm.
casually to each other, but there's none of the blatant racism or like
Mm.
violence. I there's like a couple scenes that I imagine Tarantino like threw in there. and like a
Yeah.
couple characters. There's like a feet scene. There's a couple feet scene. It's a
Mm-hmm.
plural. But the plot is super linear. And then yeah, you see that again like later films like Django. I think which one came out later? Whichever
Uh,
one came out later was way more linear, but it's still yeah, for
yeah,
some
I
reason
think
he
Django
can't.
would have been the most recent of the three that we watched for this episode. And Inglorious Bastards would have been the middle one, which I feel like that one pisses me off the most in how he just decides to like hyperactively insert scenes for no fucking reason. But we'll get to that in a minute. Back to Pulp Fiction.
Yes.
So, in my opinion, you could like this movie is only meant to be viewed in one way, in one context, and that's exactly how he has depicted it. And that's fine. That's, a director's job in theory. But like he takes it to the point where like he is not only like choosing which scenes go where, but he's like he has even said it. Like he plays an audience for their reactions. So like he's intentionally doing either like really crude stuff, really intense things to like draw out that reaction. I don't know, in my opinion, a very unnatural way in which an audience should react to a piece of subjective art. But whatever. And oh, sorry, I'm just getting so wrapped up in how much I hate him that I can't think
Dude,
straight.
talk shit, just
Okay.
let it out. Fuck him.
Okay. So as a filmmaker, he has stated several repeated times that he completely eschews like typical film conventions and like styles in which movies are made, even though he is also a self-confessed cinephile. So you would think, as someone who loves and respects and admires movies for what they are, you would want to like, learn about the things and the nuts and bolts that make them, right? And like even if you don't ever learn about film, like having grown up watching movies, living in LA, like you would have learned and been steeped in the language. It's just like growing up with like electronics now, like it's just intuitive. You know. And he like inherently knows about them, and he knows them enough to like put them in his films, but he never properly fucking utilizes like frame constraints or any of the like proper editing techniques that like he's like, oh well, I don't care about them, so I just use them however the fuck I want. Like no, you fucking don't. You still follow all of the blueprints that have been set before you in the last 100 years, and you just do them really shitty, except for like one or two scenes, and those are your standout scenes that everyone's like, oh but look at this one, it's so pretty and amazing and well shot. And then like 90% of the rest of the movie is just fucking two shot back to back bullshit and like static trucking shots or like but
So, what are like some of the techniques or things that he's like not, or the, I guess the things that he's doing like incorrectly, quote unquote?
um something, for example, there are I think seven different major types of editing conventions. The first of which would be no editing, where it's just a continuous one take scene. Like, for example, a, the entrance sequence into the House of Leaves in Kill Bill. That was a one continuous take. And like that was probably one of the first scenes besides the fight scenes that you'll have mentioned to you in Kill Bill. Notice how that's the end of the first movie. Like we've gone through an entire film, and this is the first one that people are like, but look at this scene. It's so pretty. It's so cool. Because he's like correctly utilized, just not cutting the film. Like he's so says he loves to do with his long takes, but they're just filled with inane dialogue. So whatever. Back to editing conventions. Um, Continuity editing, which would be like your typical like uh, establishing shot. We go closer in to show the setting, and then we would switch to person A over the shoulder and person B over the shoulders to like collapse space and time, so you know like where you are, the context of the scene, and the major players. And I mean, every single filmmaker is going to use that no matter what, because it's just how the visual language works. Classical editing would then start uh, juxtaposing images together. So, like, you would normally take two things that wouldn't be associated and then like pair them together, like through filmmaking and editing to create a synthesis of what the filmmaker is trying to express or convey.
Would that be something like CG, not really CGI, but like some sort of like special effects?
Imagine more like a, I'm trying to think of an example from a Tarantino film.
Bless you.
Oh, uh, the any of the sequences where you would have an insert shot of like a newspaper clipping or like somebody
Hmm.
close up on like a bottle or like reaching towards a gun. Okay, so in Inglorious Bastards, when they're about to have the gun shootout in the bar, you have like the tension at the table, and then we cut away to the bartender reaching towards the gun to like clue in that like, oh, he's aware of the tension rising in the scene as well,
Hmm.
and that would then imply that like more is about to happen, like in addition to what we have just watched. Thematic editing would be a series of edits driven by a particular theme. So think like montage or some type of sequence where we're moving really fast through time and space in a story to get through a lot of things that we wouldn't be able to like just view sequentially. Trying to think of a Tarantino example for that.
There was, I feel like there was one montage I watched and I was actually really into it, but I can't remember what one it was.
I feel like there would
Um,
have been one in Django Unchained,
Probably.
but
Yeah, there was one in Django Unchained. That
yeah,
was
so like usually it's the standard like, superhero donning their outfit or like training montage, like something like that. Radical editing is going to be what most people would claim that Tarantino is constantly doing, because they're like, you can basically just do whatever the fuck you want and it counts. Um, but I don't know. I feel like that's a really lazy way to go about your filmmaking when like most of your like long-winded exposition talks are just like, yeah, again, the two-shot setup. They're never creative or interesting. It's just to like camera A, camera B, camera C, back to camera A, camera B. Like, get some fucking variety, man.
I remember watching Brokeback Mountain in this film class I took at UM,
Hmm.
and oh, disclaimer, I never finished it because I dropped the class because of work. Um, but we were watching it and the professor was pointing out the ways that they had positioned the actors and had the camera set up to show how intimate each scene was when oh my God, I can't remember their names, but the two main characters,
Hmm.
when they're
Ennis
like
and Delmar, I think.
Ennis and I think Delmar might be the last name, but
Okay.
Ennis and something,
Hmm.
Jake Gyllenhaal,
Hmm.
um, and Heath Ledger,
Hmm.
Jake and Heath, when they're kissing, or like about to, just the tension just from like the camera angles, it's
Yeah.
so powerful, and you just like you're like holding your breath, and you're like no
Hmm.
kiss, and it's so great like without any words, and you don't even have to like bring up the awkward silence. You don't have to make it all meta. You don't have to say anything if you
And
have the right camera angles and work and effort.
and people love to point out like, oh, well, Tarantino does that too. But like, I don't know, again, he is so heavy-handed with like his direction and how he wants you to react to this and how his actors are supposed to react in his story, that like, I don't know, it feels too constructed for me to be able to like appreciate it as its own thing. Oh,
Oh, sorry, I was gonna say that's why he choked that one actress in
yep.
Inglourious Bastards. It was for that control. He wanted
Mhm.
her face to look a certain way when she was being choked. Like that is an insane amount of A, control, and B, just like
Mhm.
disgusting, weird, I
Or how
imagine shit. I don't know.
Or how he also spit in Uma Thurman's face in one of the Kill Bill movies. He also added in an extra sequence in Kill Bill to have her being choked by that chain, and he was the other one on the end of that chain. Yeah, there's just so many moments where like he's like, I have to be the one to do like the worst part of this, and like people love to be like, oh, well, that just means he cares about his actors, blah, 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 blah. And then, Uma Thurman comes out later and be like, hey, I was kind of pressured by him to do this dangerous sequence that almost left me permanently paralyzed. And he's like, oh, it's my biggest regret of my career. I feel so bad about doing that, even though I still pressured her to do that at the time and never bothered to like publicly acknowledge that at the time. Like, I'm sure he's privately apologized to her. Like, at least I fucking hope. But like, he could have been like, oh no, this accident happened on my set and I am taking accountability for the damage I caused my actress because of my film. But no, like, he's like, look, I'm the greatest. I made this great feminist movie and everyone should stop saying that I'm misogynist, please.
Yeah, and it would be something if a director was like, I am the one who's going to do the choking because I want to make sure they're not actually being choked. Or, just like an actual safety concern, which again,
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't know if the director would even need to be that person. Um,
Yeah, you could
but it's
easily
not
call.
that. And he admits it. He's like, no, I want it to look like somebody who's choking. I know what someone who's choking looks like. Like, that's his reasoning. That's so gross.
Oh geez, we were still going through editing techniques and then I got off on a tangent about how much I hate him.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, let's go back to those because those were really interesting.
Okay, so we got through radical editing, which again is what everyone's like, well, that's just what Tarantino is. And I'm like, well, that's fucking bullshit because he's already done the last four also. So what's your fucking point? But anyway, on to associative editing. This would be, sorry, my handwriting from 2010 is really terrible. Uh,
Oh, dang, those are old notes.
yeah, no, these are like my original college notes.
This is
Uh,
amazing. I'm so glad they're getting put to use here.
Uh, okay, it would be when like the example I have written down is the opening of Blue Velvet. So we would be
Which is
implying,
David Lynch. I had a
yes.
moment where I was like, that's not Tarimbo, is it? And I was
No,
like, no, no, no.
it's
Okay.
not dirigible. It's yeah, it is
Okay.
David
David
Lynch.
Lynch. Okay, sorry.
Um
Anyways, Blue Velvet.
Yes, opening of Blue Velvet. We have kind of how he is implying one thing while showing another. Like there's that sequence where the man is having the heart attack, and we can feel and see the lead up to that on screen by that like tension of the hose. And then like it's slowly clamping shut because it's twisted up, and then the man has the heart attack. And then we've seen and heard like, this idyllic, like kind of suburban neighborhood like place where like nothing bad could happen, and then like the heart attack occurs, and then like the associative like other imagery to add to that occurrence of the heart attack for the dramatic tension is then released by like going into the grass. Then we go underneath the grass and we see a whole bunch of bugs and gross stuff to imply that there is something underneath of this really idyllic, nice facade. And that would be an example of associative editing, where we are taking two separate things that normally wouldn't mean something when paired together on their own. It's slightly different than the classical editing, where we're just juxtaposing things that would like make sense together. But this
It's
would
more like
be,
a metaphor
yes,
or like a simile. Yeah.
yeah, we would be creating the metaphor on screen through editing. Last would be dialectical editing, where we would be putting two opposing sides together to then, once they come together, create a new synthesis. So think like battle sequence, think pretty much any of his fight sequences. And you can have internal and external contradiction and confliction between the frames as well in this to further heighten dramatic tension or effect, or whatever you're going for. It just depends on your film and what you're going for. And those are all the 7 aspects of editing, even though we got off on a tangent on number 6.
Okay, so what were they titled again, real quick?
Uh, so there is no editing,
Mhm.
continuity editing, classical editing, thematic editing, radical, associative, and dialectical.
There is a quiz at the end of this, so make sure you remember all of those.
I got to set as a little bit of an aside, in college I would have to sit through the same lecture every single semester for all of my classes because most of them were taught by the same person. And all of them, yeah, were about the 7 forms of editing, mise en scene, the 4 different frame constraints, which, by the way, are placement in the frame, face to camera relationship, territorial space, and frame constraints, as a fun piece of knowledge. But anyway, back to hating on Tarantino. So, do you remember the character of Fabian?
Yes, she's the one that goes on the really long, uncomfortable tangent about potbellies.
Yes.
Yes.
So, can you tell me what her character, what her entire character arc is for?
She's some sort of plot device for Bruce Willis. Is she even a plot device? I don't know, but she speaks French and she has bangs and she's very cute.
Yep.
And that's kind of it, right?
The entire point and purpose of her character is to forget the watch.
Oh, the watch. How could
Yep.
I forget the watch?
Yep. And literally that's the only thing her character does. She makes no breakthrough, any sort of character development beyond oh, I forgot the watch and I apparently want to be pregnant so bad, but whatever. And I
It
don't
wasn't
know.
even like pregnant. I think it was like an inflation fetish. I was like,
Yeah,
Tarantino's telling us something here.
yeah, no, there's anytime he has a terrible woman character, I always think of her and how everybody tells me that oh, well, you could easily have that entire movie without her. And it's that's the fucking point though. She was just there to, I don't know, have her do all those weirdly, vaguely sexual things for no fucking reason and to forget a watch and to be yelled at.
Yeah. And then our other, let's see, main lady would be Mia, right?
Yes, Mia Wallace, played by Uma Thurman again. And reminder, all 3 of the movies that we watched were produced and distributed by Miramax and Weinstein Productions, and namely Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah, we see that name very first thing at the beginning of
Like,
Inglourious Bastards and Django Unchained, both times.
mm-hmm.
Harvey Weinstein, you're like, oh, there it is.
Yep.
Immediately. We should probably
And
talk about that.
oh
Huh.
yeah, he would not have a career without him. He's even said it himself. And before, in the before times, before we knew about what a fucking trash bag he was, uh, Torbentino has said that he thought of him as a father figure, and then later adding on the modifier of fucked up after the fact. Um, but he always said that oh, well, I didn't know, I whatever. And then once Uma Thurman came out and was publicly oh, I was pressured into doing these things and I was assaulted by Weinstein, he's I knew more than I should have, and I definitely regret not doing more. And that's it. That's all he's fucking said.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't get to just be as closely related and professionally involved with one of the most prolific abusers that we at least know about in Hollywood in modern history, and be oh, well, I was told in person, first-hand accounts of this by not only Uma Thurman, also an ex-girlfriend of his. And he was like, well, I can't, stop working with him until it's a sudden PR nightmare. Like, yeah, that's totally fine. But as a weird aside to this, just to show the weird levels that, like, he can get to, like, if he feels threatened or emasculated or is somehow, I don't know, perceived and not as a fucking genius. There was an incident where Letterman made a kind of offhanded remark about like Tarantino being like kind of a squirrely little guy and like him dating this famous pretty actress, like, oh, ooh, late night comedy joke. It's whatever. 2 days later, David Letterman gets a call from Tarantino yelling, like completely like lost his shit mad, yelling at him, like, I'm gonna fucking beat you up. And Letterman thought it was a joke, so he's like, do you want to like use fists or baseball bats? And Tarantino responded, baseball bats, because I'm gonna bash your fucking head in.
Yeah, that sounds like something you'd say.
Yeah, all for being called, to quote David Letterman, a squirrely guy.
A squirrely guy.
Yep, he's a squirrely guy. That's totally worth calling him up, threatening to beat him to death. Good job, Tarantino. Oh, and the best part about this story is he didn't bother apologizing until he was on the David Letterman show promoting, I think it was Inglorious Bastards, possibly. And it wasn't until his publicist was like, hey, you should like probably apologize to him, that he did. And just to get back to the Weinstein situation, to quote uh, Torbentino, he, in his own words, said that what I did was marginalize the incidents. Anything I say now will sound like a crappy excuse, and has left it at that. Kevin
Well, that
Smith has done more. Like, he has gone on to donate all of the residuals from all of his Miramax productions to women's groups and like people who are helping survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault and things like that. And all's Tarantino can fucking manage is like, I am so sad that I didn't sit him down and talk to him. I'm so sad. Like, fuck you, man.
there are 107 different people who have actually that's just women, not including men, who have accused Weinstein of sexual harassment or assault, and about 20 who have accused him, again, just women,
Mhm.
of rape. So if anyone is wondering, I mean, once is more than enough, but
Yeah.
the scope is horrendous.
And he even mentions like he knew it was more than just rumors and more than just the normal gossip. And yeah, he did nothing about it. He knew, he has said and went on record saying that like, I should have done more. If I had done the right thing at that time, I would have stopped working with him. But he didn't. He fucking didn't. And everyone's just like, oh, well, he made Pulp Fiction, I guess. So I guess he gets a free pass.
Is there anyone, yeah, that's even being held accountable except for maybe Weinstein at this point?
Yeah,
Like,
like
for
yeah,
everything?
yeah, like
Yeah.
20 years in prison, I think, and that's it. And or at least as far as I know.
Mhm.
Oh, and another fun uh quantum tortellini fact that I
Yeah,
learned
let's
in
get
my
back to this asshole. Yeah.
okay. So, like completely forgetting his fucking movies at this point cuz like I don't goddamn care anymore. Like his film conventions are garbage. Like I thought the most unnecessary scene in Inglorious Bastards was when they introduce Goebbels and his interpreter. Like
Oh, who is
what?
Goebbels again?
Uh, that would be the propaganda minister in Inglorious Bastards, based on an actual historical Nazi who's also a piece of shit. Uh, and like when they introduce this character, he's like, "Oh yes, it's Herr Goebbels and his French interpreter, and then like hard cut to them fucking for 5 seconds, and
Oh,
then
right.
cut back. Never brought up again. Never like we could have easily gotten this through fucking subtext. Like there was no other reason than to be like, we're filming this actress having this done to her.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, okay. So
Yeah.
kind of going off of that theme, like we all know about like Roman Polanski and what a piece of shit he is, or at least
Can we do brief, you
okay.
don't have full overview,
Okay,
but
so Roman Polanski was once a director, is featured in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood because Tarantino has reimagined the gruesome Manson murders and the death of Sharon Tate for dramatic effect. Because that's fun. That's super great. Uh,
yeah.
but anyway, Roman Polanski was convicted and accused of drugging and raping a 13-year-old back in the 70s, uh, and fled to Paris to avoid persecution and has stayed there ever since. Never has been actually convicted of these crimes, but like refuses to return to the States and still makes movies. Still gets to live his fucking life.
I just assumed he was somewhere in America and quote unquote canceled. I had no idea.
Nope.
Amazing.
But anyway, there was once an interview done on the Howard Stern show where this was, someone asked him the question, like, why do you think it's okay for Roman Polanski to be winning like the highest award in Hollywood when he's like a known, disgusting, horrible person? And he's like, well, he makes great films, and I don't think like he called it statutory rape. And then when pressed further, he said that the girl was into it. And only 15 years later did he bother apologizing about his remarks. Like, what the fuck?
I want to be yelling right now, but my cat is taking a very noisy shit in the cat box right now. But I am over here
Like,
fuming just with
yeah,
the
no,
mic
that
off.
like my entire time researching this was just learning new fucking levels of how disgusting he is and how much I hate his voice and the way he just words things. Like, oh my god, I never like his voice reminds me of all of like every single like that guy in any film class I've ever had,
Mhm.
because like that's who he is. Like that's how he acts, is like that fucking guy who always has to like be edgy and like take things to the extreme, blah, 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 and like just fucking, I don't know, smoke some weed, dude. Shut the fuck up and get away from me. But yeah, no, his like performative after the fact apologies about every single disgusting thing he's ever like gone out of his way to say. Like it's not like he's like trying, but he just somehow further shoves his foot farther up his ass. Like
Yeah,
oh,
I can't think of any other director that is like having has this much controversy like in our time.
uh,
Unless you can, I mean, like, I guess like I don't want to say our time, but I don't know. I guess is there anyone you can compare him to that's just like so unpleasant to work with and just like as a human?
I mean, think of any of the like super great quote unquote directors that people hold up. Hitchcock, known disgusting, like philanderer, like misogynist, like badgered Tippi Hedren to the point of like ruined her career post Birds. Was accused of sexual assault, but was allowed to keep making movies. Woody Allen uh,
Mm.
continues to make movies despite being a disgusting predator. Like there was Stanley Kubrick, who famously won awards for psychologically torturing Shelley Duvall. Uh, the way that a lot of filmmakers utilize abuse and torture in their movies for the sake of art just because they're fucking control freaks to the point of sadism is unacceptable. And I don't know, it's a really disgusting pattern in Hollywood, and people will excuse it just because, like, oh, well, this art was great. It's made me
Yeah,
really have to sit and consider, like, why I want to be in films. Like, why do I want to be a part of this industry when every single thing I learn about it makes me hate it even more?
it's because it's a boys' club. It
Ugh.
has that boys' club energy, which has got to fucking go.
Yeah.
Um,
Want to burn that shit to the ground.
but something I have learned as I've gotten older at the ripe old age of 27, um, is that if it looks like shit and it smells like shit and it tastes like shit, it's probably shit. So,
Mhm.
like, if you have, for example, a band like the Melvins, and they have a history throughout their entire career of throwing up Nazi salutes and using Nazi imagery
Mhm.
and all of these things in their music, and everyone's like, oh, they're just edgelords. And then later you see them doing interviews with Gavin McInnes of the Proud Boys, and
Mhm.
people are shocked that they're racist all of a sudden. It's like they've always been racist. People who aren't racist aren't gonna wave around, a swastika. Like they might be one of those new agey people, but those people are obvious, and they're just
Yeah.
weird trying to take it back, but that's their own thing. But yeah, if it looks like a Nazi or looks like a domestic abuser or does has the signs of being something, it's probably that thing.
Yeah, like when you go on record that, like, I write amoral characters for an amoral world because that's how I want my world to be. Like, maybe at some point you're the amoral asshole, and maybe your movies aren't that good because he also just cannot withstand any sort of negative criticism of himself or his movies. That's something I kept finding over and over again in my research, is like anytime someone brings up like an even partially valid criticisms against like himself, his movies, his artistic style, he's just like, well, you don't fucking get it, or like find some accountable out for himself to never like fully, you know,
Yeah,
take
he
credit for what he fucking does.
he gives off really big, like, I think it's because of Samuel Jackson, like, my
Hmm.
best friend is black energy, so I can't be racist.
Uh,
I made Django Unchained, so I can't be racist.
yeah.
Um,
Oh man, there was an interview I once watched where Tarantino was on uh, some talk show on the BET channel with Jamie Foxx, Kerry Washington, and Samuel L. Jackson. Everyone is just talking normally, except for Tarantino, who can be heard using what can only be described as a jive accent.
mm,
And you can just see it on Samuel L. Jackson's face. He's just like, thousand-yard stare, like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be sitting here listening to this. And then all of the interviews you see are just him praising him and his directorial style. And it's like, I want to know how he maybe actually feels.
yeah, it's like, does he need money that I feel like he can't need money that bad where he needs to like suck up to Tarimbo?
Yeah, like there's no way that Torrentino is that influential that Samuel L. Jackson can't work with other directors. Like, there's no fucking way. Like, uh, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. People will always like blow off like their like white friend or whatever, as or like white people in general. It's like sometimes like the shit that we say. I mean, collectively, I try not to make racist jokes, but some
Hmm.
people are able to recognize that it's intended as a joke. But
Yeah.
like, you can't do that with like the physical abuse
Hmm.
because like it's there. It's like it's happening,
Like, everyone loves to point to Kill Bill as that, like, oh, it's like such a badass female empowerment movie because, like, she gets to kill all her abusers and stuff. And it's like not ever touching or processing the fact that like she went through years of abuse and torture to get to this point. Like, yeah, she was also a criminal. Like, yeah, she also killed people. But while in that coma, there was that nurse who apparently had a money for rape program going. What the fuck? And just because she gets to fucking kill those people doesn't make that okay. And I hate it. He shouldn't get to be the person like carelessly spitting out and shitting out these terrible movies with no nuance or like tone reflection or like anything, because like look at any of the controversies that have happened since Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, like especially considering that his depiction of Bruce Lee uh, upset and tarnished like his perception in Hollywood, and like it upset his living surviving daughter to the point where like she wrote a column being like, "Hey, I'm really fucking tired of white men in Hollywood trying to tell me who Bruce Lee was. So,
Mhm.
I don't know, maybe put some goddamn consideration into your depiction of him." And he's like, "Oh, well, I get why his daughter would be upset, but everybody else can like just go fuck off." He makes a really shitty half-assed exception for like, oh yeah, I understand why his family would be upset with how I made him look like an arrogant, egotistical asshole who apparently thought he was like better than everybody else. I haven't ever seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood because I just ugh, everything I learn about it makes me never want to fucking see it.
Yeah, I watched it. Honestly, yeah, don't really remember much of it. I remember kind of like being like, when are we gonna get to the Manson thing? When are we gonna get to the
Mm-hmm.
Manson thing? And then being like, oh, it's like Inglorious Bastards where he changes the ending, like
Yep.
how they, spoiler alert, how they killed Hitler is different. Like, woo.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and it's like Pulp Fiction formula of movies, which I just kind of expect from him at this
Yeah.
point. Or
Yeah.
one should, I guess.
So that's another thing that I really hate about his filmmaking is that like everyone expects it to hit the same notes every single time, no matter what the story is.
Like a Pokemon game.
Yeah, like what other director do we ever ask that of? Usually if a director like comes out with anything that's like vaguely similar, they're like, "Oh, what a hack. They're like unimaginative." Like, but Tarantino can go around using the same fucking five things in all his goddamn movies and almost the same spot in all his goddamn movies and like be considered a fucking genius. Ah! Like the only
So,
example I can think of right now would be the trajectory of M. Night Shyamalan's career versus
mhm,
Todd Tino's.
mhm.
Just because he had a few good breakout movies, and then people actually stopped and critically looked at his shit, and it's like, oh wait, it's not that good. And he's like, no, don't worry, it's good. And then he made The Happening, and we're like, it's not that good. Where was that
Yeah.
critical thinking with fucking Tutuola? Like, what the fuck? He shouldn't get a free pass for like rehashing all this fucking shit. Like, I don't know. Find some movie that's not about an amoral asshole who's a criminal who has to go on a vigilante killing spree to, I don't know, somehow right a wrong. Like, fucking be imaginative,
Dude, Jackie
bitch.
Brown was such a breath of fresh air and just like, yeah, again, knowing that it's not his story, it's
Mm-hmm.
somebody else's story, and it's about they mentioned her age a couple times, but a 44-year-old black woman, and
Mm-hmm.
like, she's great, and it's a great story, and there's like maybe two deaths in it, and like,
Mm-hmm.
there's a trunk shot, of course, there's some
Yeah.
feet. I remember watching it just like, wow, like this is, I don't know, it was just like such a fun thing to watch in comparison to like the other movies where like, so
Mm-hmm.
I get like songs stuck in my head a lot, but I'll also get like words and phrases stuck in my head. I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
that ever happens to you, but
Oh
like
yeah.
the past few days of watching Tarantino movies over and over of just like I'll get the N word stuck in my head, and I'm just like,
Ugh.
oh my God, like what is happening? And and
No.
it's just like this is not one of the things I want cycling around in my brain. But like after watching Jackie Brown, that wasn't an issue.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I'm really curious about your note because you said you have some notes on Jackie Brown, right?
It's mostly just you're like kind of like watching video essays about his career and his filmmaking style. Like I know that the movie is supposed to be that kind of love letter homage to the blaxploitation
Mhm.
film genre, which what the fuck, that was a film genre.
Yeah.
Goddamn 1970s. Like what the hell? But that's about the extent of it that I know, beyond that. Like people love to claim that like, oh well, he revived the lead actress's career because of this movie, and like it's somehow like absolves him of any, I don't know, critical thinking on like female and race topics. Like
Yeah,
eh?
it's like Lady Antebellum changed their name from Lady Antebellum to Lady A, but then
Mm-hmm.
sued the black woman that was using the name Lady A. Like
Yep.
one anti-racist action, quote unquote, maybe even if like or yeah, I guess an anti-racist
Yeah.
action doesn't negate or like I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. It doesn't work that way. Like
It's
you
like
gotta do
like
your best all the time.
hmm It's like him trying to weasel out of the whole like accountability with working with Weinstein of like, oh, well, I realize now I should have done more. But like, are you going to do anything more right now? Are you going to like actually show that you're trying to make up for it, or like showing that you're listening? No, like anytime anyone criticizes you on matters of like sexuality, like race, or any of the things, people love to be like, hey, this is kind of shitty that you do, maybe don't. And he's like, well, fuck you, you're just, you don't get it. Bleh. And that's not how you respond to criticism like a rational adult. You would like, sit and listen and be like, oh, well, let me see how I am a part of that and what I can do to change that. Like, it's not that fucking hard. Ugh.
It's just like men. Like
Man,
that
like I know for the longest time I tried to like never think about him as a person while trying to criticize his movies, and I've come to the point where like there is no way that I can do that, because his movies and his filmmaking are an extension of him, and I hate him so viscerally and so thoroughly that like anything he produces makes me that upset, because it is inherently him. It is inherently his signature. And that's why some people are like, oh, he's such a great director because you can always tell that it's his style. But you can do that with Steven Spielberg, and it doesn't have to be the exact same fucking story every time. You can do that with Ron Howard. You can do that with James Cameron. Like, there are other ways to define yourself as a director and not pigeonhole yourself to the point of absolutely no artistic growth ever for the sake of art, and not be a pretentious asshole.
yeah, I'm just looking over my notes for each of the movies, just kind of like seeing if there was anything I missed. And like most of them are notes about like the movies themselves, which we're not going to get into, A, because of
Yeah.
time, but B, just because like fuck them.
Yeah.
But um, it's just like it's all like feet. Like everyone has a note about feet on it,
Yep.
and just like violence. So like Inglorious Bastards, my advice is like I've never
Mhm.
played Wolfenstein. Is that the
Mhm.
game? Yeah, then just go play
Yeah.
that game probably, or like watch a World
Mhm.
War II documentary, or just like do
Yeah.
something else. Django Unchained. Just play Red Dead Redemption or Red
Mhm.
Dead Redemption 2. I
Yeah.
highly recommend.
So many better
Um,
ways to like, or you could even watch any of the like hundreds of movies he fucking references by like copycatting the shots from, and
mm.
then you can like actually understand what the fuck he was trying to do, because that's another aspect of his filmmaking, is just straight up copy pasting sequences, like famous sequences from other movies, into his own with his own like paint job on it, and it's like, look, I made it.
Django Unchained is based off of the 1966 Django, which is loosely based off of Yojimbo, which is
Mm-hmm.
like a samurai movie from Japan, which I guess there's a lot of overlap between like spaghetti westerns and samurai
Mm-hmm.
movies, which
Yeah.
is kind of cool. And I didn't get a chance to watch Yojimbo, but I would recommend everyone just do that instead because then you'd get more context anyways and be able to apply it to more things instead of just
Mm-hmm.
watching Django Unchained. Watch something with like from a black perspective instead of like the gross like
Mm-hmm.
watching a black woman get whipped and
Yeah,
people torn apart by dogs.
the fight to the death sequence, like
Mhm.
I I have watched movies that are like meant to be pain slogs, and like there's nothing good or redeeming about them. That one felt excessive and celebratory in its like violent slog.
Yeah, and I'm white and just like I don't know, I can't imagine what anyone else's reaction would be, but I was just like this is too much.
Yeah, no, I
Like
remember being like kind of just sucked into my seat and just like, oh my God, he's actually gonna fucking show this. Oh my God. And again, like I've watched a Serbian film and this upset me more because not because
yeah,
like just the gore and the violence, like, but just I don't know, there's better ways of representing extreme pain like that, and they
like
definitely
the
don't have
scars. I feel like the scars are a good, way to do that.
it.
Show the pain without like bringing us back there.
Yep.
Was there anything else you wanted to add on any of these movies?
I will be honest, I never got around to actually rewatching Django Unchained, so I'm trying to like
No worries.
remember it from my mind because I got just so sucked into reading about how shitty he is as a person that like yeah, it took away
Well,
all my
fuck
time to
it.
watch these movies. But oh no.
You don't need to watch them. I
Yeah,
watched them,
I
and I say you can just play Red Dead Redemption 2.
sweet.
I recommend it even. You get little side quests with characters who are people of color, and they're really interesting. And you can get like, I don't know, I've put hundreds of hours in, versus
Hmm.
like a God, like a movie that's way too long, like 2.5, 3 hours. That doesn't need to be that long at all.
Yeah.
Really.
And like again, there's nothing wrong with long format movies, but like I don't know, maybe make your dialogue sequences interesting and have relevance to the fucking plot. Like the Coen brothers know how to write better dialogue than Toronto because oh my god, they can get through an exposition sequence so much better. Like as a palate cleanser for all of this Torben Scano research that I did, I had to watch just something that wasn't him, and I ended up watching Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
I
And
watched that like last week.
oh,
Yay.
but yeah, like I watched that as a palate cleanser, and I was just blown away by like not only the shot variants, the like non-static camera movement to show movement and emotion and all of these cool things that you can do with a camera and being a director. And it's like, wow, I saw fucking none of that.
Yeah, the Coen brothers are such a great example too of the
Mm-hmm.
like controlled hyper violence or like
Yeah,
ultra violence. Like
like
No Country for
Fargo.
Old Men,
Yeah,
Fargo. Oh my God. Controlled, but
and
so good.
even if you want to do like a non-linear, like radically edited story sequence, like look at the Ballad of Buster Scruggs, which again is done by the Coen brothers, to add to uh Tutuola's like total asshole and like complete control over things. Like he has hated on the fact that like we are switching away from like actual film to like digital video, and he like thinks that's going to be like the death of filmmaking and like the end of cinema because you lose the magic without the actual film. Like, no, you
Mhm.
fucking don't. It just makes it a less classist, elitist field. You fucking bitch. Like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, like you can do that if you want, but the rest of the world is gonna do the rest of the world.
Like at
Welcome to
some
2021.
Yeah, like at some convention, like some person asked, like, what can I do as an aspiring filmmaker to like learn more about film? And he was on a panel with like James Cameron and a couple other directors. And Cameron was like, just take a video camera, you and your friends, like write a sequence and film it. You'll learn so much more that way than anything I could ever say to you. And Tarantino was like, I just want to chime in and say, yeah, that's a great idea, but take a film camera, not a video camera. He's like, I had the same idea, but here's it better.
God, I hate him. That's kind of that probably sums up his career pretty good, huh?
Basically, like, oh, I like that you did this, but I'm going to do it more pretentiously, so therefore I'm right.
If you could say anything, if you could get Quantum Tarantula in the same room with you, sit him down, or keep him standing up, or lay him down on the ground, whatever position makes you feel better,
Mm-hmm.
what would you tell him? What would you say to him?
I would look him straight in his ugly, lumpy face and be like, Quinoa, Torbinscano, I fucking hate you, you goddamn prick. And then I would just want to, I don't know, Sparta kick him. And
Are we kicking him into a hole?
for whatever reason, I'm imagining like the warehouse from Reservoir Dogs and like he's on the
Mm.
folding chair.
Yeah, it's poetic.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
And
movie I would watch.
yeah, we just get to like all yell at Tarantino and then we can cut off his ear, make him drown in a pool of blood, and then it will be a visual synthesis.
Yeah, and then we'll have like some sweet 80s pop song
Nah, it's gotta
play
be
in
like
the
some
background.
shitty, like retro, like mid 70s song that like absolutely no one's heard of for like 20 years. And we'll suddenly be fucking everywhere.
I'm gonna go look for a song to figure out which one that one's gonna be.
Okay.
Um, Yui, this is the part where you can plug any of your work if you want to do like any of your art stuff or if you have any like film stuff out there.
I haven't really made too much film stuff. Like I have a few of my own personal projects up on YouTube. I think if you search under my actual name, Eustacia Catherines, you would be able to find a few of those, which I have made a music video once, and I was actually really proud of that. I have art pages where I post all of my bone art and sewing art, which would be at Fawn House Designs, FAUNHAUS Designs, both on Facebook and Instagram. And you can keep up with all of my bone art and sewing there. And I don't really do any other podcasts or things like that beyond just being guests on episodes for my friends.
Yes. Well, Yui, you're an excellent guest. I'm
Oh,
really,
thank
really glad we got to do this. And fuck Tarantino, dude.
Yes.
Fuck that
Thank
guy.
you. Thank you for the outlet for letting me yell about my favorite topic to hate.
Yes, anytime.